Hey guys, today's video will be a bit of a story time slash get to know me slash why I got into fish keeping. But first, I'd like to say thank you quickly. Thank you to those who keep following me along this ride and to my family for not mocking me yet. And thank you to my cats who have actually managed to be quiet mostly during my voiceover recording, whatever you call this. Once again, I'm going to be using just leftover clips of my fish that I have. These ones are more recent though. There's none like going back in time as the other video was. Alright, to start the video, I guess we'll just say that I live in Northern Ontario, Sudbury. I've lived here my entire life, for the exception of like 5 years. I moved down south there, but lived in Ontario for the most part of my life. I was on a boat in the water pretty much the second I popped out. My dad would put like those little circular jelly seat thingies with toys on the tray, and he would fill it up with water and put fish or leeches or whatever the heck in there so I could play with it. I honestly remember lots of times purposely getting leeches stuck to me, like letting them suck and ripping them off. I don't know, weird kid. Least to say, when I started having multiple fish tanks, nobody was surprised at all. When I got a little bit older too, when we'd go fishing, we'd bring a bucket, and whichever small fish they catch, they'd put in the bucket so I could just sit and play with it. Not really interested in actually fishing itself for the most part. And when I did camping with my grandparents, I would just fish off the back of the boat with worms for the tiny little fish. I find it more fun. Yeah, I just always like fish. One day I hope to have like a natural species native tank. Definitely wouldn't be that hard to do. I could get that done by next year if no crazy stuff ends up happening to me. Speaking of buckets, I actually remember this one time my dad and I together were biking down my grandparents' street to a lake so we could go swimming, and I had found a bucket and I ended up finding some tadpoles, like I'd say about 50 to 75 tadpoles. I scooped up as much as I could of the tadpoles, and I put them in a bucket with some water, and my dad and I biked back to my grandparents. I still vividly remember the purple-red indents on his fingers from carrying the heavy pail all the way. I remember thinking, like, wow, man, you are such a beast that you were able to carry that. Had to have been at least a 15, 30 minute, I don't know, I was a little kid. When you're a little kid, your time, you don't know. Your concept of time as a little kid is all over the place, so I'm not sure exactly how long, but it was definitely quite a bike ride. I kept them for about a month until they started growing into full-grown frogs, and then I asked my grandpa to take me swimming, and I released them back. But even just fishing itself, I've had one story particular where a fish ripped a rod right out of my hand. I was casting. I was just a little kid, and my parents didn't want me to hook anybody, so they gave me a Daredevil, which is red and white with no hook. I ended up catching something big enough. They thought it was a log, I guess, at first, but it ripped it right out of my hand. And then eventually, I forgot to mention there was a bobber on it. It floated up, and they pulled my rod back in. At the time, though, I was young. I was so scared. I ended up crying and freaking out, saying I was never going to fish again. So that's a funny family story that I'll never live down, that's for sure. Little me and my aunt. Fun fact, I do still have that rod as well. If I can find it, I'll take a picture of it when I'm at my dad's. It was a lime green rod, which is like you push a thumb button and the line goes out. I care for elderly people. Where I'm from, it's called a PSW. I go home to home and I don't drive. This year, I was hit by a car at the beginning, so I have had such a long time home recuperating. I ended up diving into aquariums a lot deeper than I ever expected to. I'm so glad I did, though. That's one blessing that came out of it. It's definitely helped me cope big time. Then I decided to start posting shorts, and that lended me here. My number of tanks grew pretty fast, but I did downsize a tiny bit so I could help my neighbor give his new pet betta, whatever, a new better home. I always like hearing people's favorite fish, so I thought I'd list some of mine. For sure, plecos and any type of catfish have a special place in my heart. I absolutely love them. I've had a few baby ones in aquariums, native ones, as a kid also. Of course, betta fish. They're just such a perfect, beautiful beginner fish. They have such different and interesting personalities. I love every single one. And they're pretty easy to keep. I know Corys are catfish, but I decided to just add them on their own because they're so cute and cool. I love them. There's a million different varieties of them I'm learning now too. Lastly, I hate to be basic, but I do definitely love guppies and endlers so much. They're a phenomenal fish to keep, and they have amazing variety of colors. There's definitely a few fish that I haven't kept yet personally, but I would love to, like pea puffers and Congo or serpent tetras. Those are definitely on my list. I've got some convict cichlids coming from my best friend down south next time I head down there, which should be in the beginning of December sometime. So stay tuned for that. I'm gonna clean out a tank I have and maybe try to breed them. I'm not sure yet, but definitely raise up a few that I get from her. Well, yeah, that'll be it for today. I'll try to insert some pictures if I can find. I know I have one of me and the rod itself. My brother Lucas put a fish on the end, so don't be fooled into thinking I catch that. And I'll see if I can find any other photos, but yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I apologize for any background noise. I know my landlord's getting some work done, so see you later.